gridlock, then Herts County Council are right in terms of their recommendation. I've got no disagreement with that. Their operational matters and safety matters they've taken into account. I don't believe that that is what severe is intended to be in the NPPF. I think it's a ludicrously high bar, which, knowing that a transport assessment purports to model a typical time period or whatever, means that there will always be occasions when things are worse than that. And therefore, agreeing to a transport assessment which could easily end up with gridlock, with one or two other occasional occurrences, frankly, is way beyond the test of severe in my terms. I know that that the planning officers put their versions of the word severe in the report. I looked it up in my Pocket Oxford Dictionary, and two of the definitions of severe came out as serious or exacting or extreme. And I think if you put it in those contexts, it isn't sort of one step away from impossible. So what I'm saying here is that I don't believe there needs to be an enormous amount of additional technical work. I would love the travel planning assumption to be tested for sensitivity, but ultimately this is about a definition of the word severe, and I think highways have got it right in their own terms, but not in planning terms. I think they're right to look at transport from a safety and an operational gridlock point of view. But in planning terms, I think we have to go a step further than that and look at it in terms of its impact on people. And so I disagree with Mr. Stepter's view that we need to do an enormous amount of technical work to support a refusal of this application.
Thank you. Councillor Page.
Thank you. My view is that Mr. Steptoe's summing up was not balanced. I thought we'd already established that this was a discrete local application which would be decided on its own merits, and he keeps coming back to the position of East Herts Council and its deficit in housing sites and how this would affect everybody else. I think this committee needs to be brave, to stand up for not only residents in Bishop Stortford who might be blighted by traffic chaos and severe congestion, but they will ultimately be standing up for their own neighbourhoods. It is a case of whether we're brave or not. I think we should be, and certainly this paragraph 32 of the NPPF needs to be tested. It has to be tested by somebody, so why not let it be tested by us?
I would just say at this point, and I agree with a lot of what you've said, that we will be going against not only our officers' advice, but county council officers' advice if we go on highways, traffic roads. Kevin, do you want to comment?
Chair, no, only suffice to say in relation to the housing and land supply issue, unfortunately, Chairman, we cannot neglect to take that into account. Clearly, I think we would be putting ourselves in an unreasonable position. I know the figures aren't good, and I know that we're looking at the impact of this proposal particularly, but we cannot disregard that. Members may feel they don't want to give that much weight, and they're entirely entitled to do so. But I do have to say this is built into our land supply figure, so it will have an impact. I think it would be remiss of me if I don't ensure members are aware of that. If they feel they don't want to give that weight, then they can, of course, reach that position, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews, do you wish to continue with your recommendation on your proposal
Well, I think it merits some discussion at the risk of delaying members and the public by a few more minutes. But I think this section 1 of 6 thing is quite fundamental. If the application doesn't fall, then I think we possibly could still do some work on that. And I'll put a proposal forward about how that 106 was ultimately referred or reported back to the committee, which I feel would be helpful.
Could you explain again, because on the recommendation 1, I was suggesting that we add the words plus executive member, Malcolm Alexander plus 2 Bishop Stortford district councillors. So could you just remind us of your proposal?
Well, given the size of the project and given the time that the members here have committed to it, the public clearly have a very strong interest in it, I think that if there are changes to the 106, they should be referred back to the committee ultimately. I would be perfectly happy for a smaller subcommittee to look at them and then make recommendations to the committee. I don't see the whole committee needing involved. That's not what I'm suggesting, and I'm very comfortable with the members who suggested, but ultimately I think it should come back to committee for the final decision. And words could be put together to produce that result. I'd be comfortable with the proposal.
Chairman, I'm unsure if the requirement comes back to committee, then it comes back to committee. I don't think any subgroup of the committee therefore really serves an additional purpose. I think I think what we're suggesting is that the chairman and associated members, and we've heard 2 Bishop Stortford and the executive member, have the ability, what we're suggesting, to make a decision about is the change a significant one they feel should be referred back to the committee. So that group of 4 members would have the ability to look at all changes, many of which will be fairly inconsequential, and they may feel that as a result they don't need to come back to committee. But if they feel there is something of significance, then they have that decision to refer it back to the committee. So that's the suggestion, Chairman. So I hope it doesn't. It seems to be, if you like, a compromise between not burdening the committee with lots of inconsequential detail, but enabling those matters to be assessed by members. So that seems to be a sensible compromise.
Councillor Andrews.
Well, there's 2 problems I had with the word appropriate and the word can. I should like to change the word appropriate in that recommendation to significant. Still subjective, I appreciate, but I think 10% either way would probably be considered to be significant. And the word can is removed. And I hope my seconder will.
Sorry, can you?
Right, on page 1 of the additional representation, main report recommendation 2. Further words are suggested to be included within the recommendation to clarify that the chairman can decide that, if appropriate, any matter of amendment to the S106 can be referred back to the committee. I would suggest, and I would like to propose, the removal of, or rather the change of the word appropriate to significant. My value attached to significant is 10%, and any matter of amendment to the S106 be referred back. So any significant matter be referred back to the committee.
Your second to agree, Councillor Moore.
Well, it falls.
I'm struggling a little, Chairman. If something's to be referred back, it's to be referred back, and if the word can is taken out, it is being referred back. I think what the members saying there is matters of significance I refer back. So rather than that group of members have the ability to make the decision on something significant, I think where we'll get into difficulty, of course, if not everything is a monetary amount. So 10% would be difficult to apply in some circumstances. So I just hesitate to think that we may get into difficulty. We'll err on the side of caution and then probably end up referring matters back in the event, Chairman. Defer to what the committee feels appropriate, Chairman.
Well, if you wish to continue that proposal, Councillor Andrews, we can vote on your proposal that the wording changed on our extra paper here is if, instead of if appropriate, it's if significant, and I think that's a difficult one to quantify, any matter of amendment to the section wise it's be referred back to the committee. This is instead of what is on our recommendation on page 52, which will include the words, plus the executive member, Malcolm Alexander, plus 2 Bishop Stortford District Councillors. So we need to, at this point, take Councillor Andrews' proposal.
If you would assist, given that there are substantial areas which are out with the monetary, could it refer instead to the monetary obligations? Because clearly we don't want to get involved in all heads of terms, but I'm thinking more in terms of monetary obligations, and I'm sorry for delaying you by not making that clear.
Sorry, would you like to put forward in your words exactly what your proposal is? I think we're all a bit confused at this stage.
It's 10 to 11. I'll do my best. If Mr. Steptoe would refer me back to the original in the document, I'd be obliged to remove
Page 52.
page 52. And the paragraph? Okay, to clarify, so we need, the situation is that we need to clarify that the chairman, together with the executive member and 2 other members. 2 other members. Yeah.
I think particularly it should be...
I would be very, absolutely, couldn't agree more. Can decide that if significant, any matter of amendment to the monetary elements of the Section 106 agreement be referred back to the committee.
So anything to do with any money issues comes back
Yeah.
to the committee, however small.
Yeah. No, significant.
Significant. What is significant?
Don't say.
I think we're clear, Chairman, on that basis.
Right, members, we have a proposal from Councillor Andrews that recommendation on number 1 on page 52 is altered to the words...
Those 2, Chairman.
Sorry? 1, 2 and 4, they all refer to Chairman of the Management Committee, Head of Planning.
The second, it's the second recommendation that sets out that a delegation be authorised. So it's the second recommendation that's being affected by that.
Right, members, it's the second recommendation on page 52 that Councillor Andrews' proposal is for. Are you all clear on that? What?
I'm trying to work out the implication should that little group decide that it shouldn't be referred back to committee, and they then make that decision on without it going to committee. So that group could decide to make the decision themselves or refer back to committee.
No, I think what Councillor Andrews is suggesting is on number 2, page 52, is particularly, it's to do with financial contributions that it's relevant. He feels that he would prefer anything that is significant regarding financial contributions to come back to full committee.
Chairman, I don't know if we're sort of maybe misdirecting ourselves at the moment, Chairman. We have this issue about the refusal on the table. Of course, the whole issue about dealing with deep matters of detail, if we don't support it in principle, it probably falls away, Chairman. So maybe that's maybe members may like to deal with the issue in principle first. Of whether it is refused or not, because then the matter of dealing with detail falls away.
Councillor Andrews, although your proposal was first, are you happy that we take the second proposal, which is to refuse the application before yours?
I should be delighted.
I'm so pleased. Right, members, we have a proposal to refuse this application proposed by Councillor Gary Jones and seconded by Councillor Tim Page. And can you just remind us of your reasons for refusal?
Yeah, the refusal of the application was due to the severe net residual impacts on transport. That's the term from paragraph 32. Basically, it's unsustainable traffic implications.
Okay, thank you very much.
Does the member want to, just for clarity, do they want to confirm that that relates to the impacts across the town, Jim?
As opposed to...
I think, Chairman, just obviously the impacts are obviously from the information we had in the Highway Authority's assessment, the applicant's assessment, the Highway Authority assessment. Obviously, the impacts are felt at various points across the town. We've had additional delays and traffic queues at those points. There isn't reference, of course, to gridlock. I know that terminology is used a lot tonight. There is reference to that, but of course it's felt at those individual points across the town, Hockley lights and so on. Chair, just for clarity, members don't feel one of those is more severe than another, really, and then just seeking to ensure that it is the entirety of the impact across the town that members' concerns relate to.
Yeah, that seems to fit broadly with what the intent. It's not a single point, but there are issues related to Adam Road, Rice Street, Hockley lights, and Point South.
Thank you very much. Right, members, we have a proposal from Councillor Jones, seconded by Councillor Tim Page, to refuse this application. Could we have a show of hands all those who agree with this amendment to refuse the application? And those against this proposal? That is lost.
You have recorded myself.
We have a second proposal from Councillor Mike Newman, seconded by Councillor Alexander, that this application is Councillor Jones.
Can I make an amendment to the second proposal from Councillor Newman, please?
With his permission.
The issue that I've got is that if we change the alignment, we still end up with the same traffic implications. So I would wish to add some significant conditions following the deferral, such as that the whole traffic position is reviewed again after the first phase of the development. This is to address the traffic situation becoming worse than anticipated in the timescales that we've got, and I don't think we've got anything at the moment which does anything other than monitor the problem. We've got no means to realistically make any physical changes to the infrastructure if the traffic modelling proves to be inaccurate. So I'm seeking, in addition to the deferral, or it may be at least allowing this to come back again at the point that we discuss the deferral, or the response to the deferral, that we have some conditions in there that give us a point within the phase development that we can reconsider the traffic implications in the light of the reality at that time.
Right, Councillor Newman, I wonder if you'd just like to remind us of your reasons for deferral.
So my suggestion on the proposal was we defer this pending, I think my words were, detailed consideration and investigation by a group comprising local members, East Herts Council planning officers and Herts Highways, to look at a western access that does not involve an additional roundabout on the Haddon Road. I hear Councillor Jones suggested an amendment to my proposal, And my belief is, I can't lay my finger on it here, but in fact that there is an undertaking within this, that in fact that the traffic situation will be continuously monitored, and that mitigation actions will be taken as and when, or in reaction to the continuously reviewed progress as the development happens over this long period of time. So at this stage, I'm not happy to take Councillor Jones' additional suggestion. I would prefer to stick with my original suggestion. Thank you.
Would you like to second that? Yes. So just to remind us, it's to include which members?
Local members, East Herts Council planners and Herts Highways to investigate, to consider and investigate for a detailed investigation and consideration of alternatives, of a western access that does not involve an additional roundabout on Headham Road. Head of planning or planning officers, and yourself if you are to join that group.
Members, do you understand the reasons for the deferral? Councillor Andrews first.
I wonder if Councillor Newman would consider another option, which is we don't focus so much on the western access, but we do take its detailed consideration, investigation by a group consisting of, as per, remove western access that does not involve a roundabout on Headham Road. Therefore, it opens the way to look without restriction on all points of access. Because removing potential for a roundabout on Headham Road may well have implications on the other points at the moment. So not being specific about western access, look at all of them. But at least have the opportunity to look at all of them. That's what I'm suggesting.
Councillor Bolton.
Yes, surely, Chairman, as a matter of procedure, if there is a proposal and somebody recommends an amendment, you have to take that amendment. That's a procedure thing. You can't say to the proposer, do you like it or not, just say be elected. As a procedure matter, surely that amendment must be taken.
We have legal advice which says no.
No, Chairman, the proposal's been put forward by Councillor Newman, it's been seconded, he's been asked to amend it, he's not accepted that, therefore it stands as it is.
And Councillor Andrews made a second suggestion that I amend my proposal, which I can't honestly see the difference between whether we specifically mention the western access. I mean, there still needs to be a western access because there is no other, this is a single access point onto the western development. So it seems to me almost irrelevant whether we have put the word western in there or not.
I'm just going to ask the Highways officer to comment, please.
Yes, it was just to reinforce the point on the western access. I did mention earlier, but I wanted to stress that permitting a new access on the primary route network is against county policy, and that's set out in the LTP3. So new access for new development onto the primary route network is only permitted under special circumstances. It's very difficult in this circumstance to make a case for special circumstances when the access proposed onto Haddon Road operates perfectly satisfactorily.
Councillor Andrews.
Well, I take your point, but that's a huge assumption. And a roundabout has been permitted at the eastern end. I just wanted to give the panel the opportunity to consider it in a whole. Were an access to be considered, although it would be against policy at present, policy is there to be challenged on occasions. If another access was considered somewhere on the A120, it might upset the balance of the existing proposed accesses. And I didn't want to limit the group to considering only the western end, a few hundred metres of road potentially. Any changes may upset the balance of the other. So I think it would be helpful if the word western was removed so that the group
was to look at the whole picture again.
Councillor Gary, have you got a short comment?
It's a question, really. I'm just trying to understand the implications of the deferral. Does that put the whole decision on this planning application back, so that things that we discussed earlier and maybe even have refused to come back again at the next meeting?
Kevin?
Chairman, you've taken the proposal was put forward in relation to the highways in general terms about its severity. The proposal was put forward to refuse on that basis, and the committee has resolved not to refuse the proposal on that basis. There's discussion now about seeking to reassess the access arrangements. Western neighbourhood, and or in general terms, if I can put it like that at the moment. The implications of that are that, of course, we have the advice from the Highway Authority that the access arrangements are acceptable as they stand, and regardless of investigation work we may seek to undertake, the applicant has a proposal in front of us which has arrangements that we are advised is acceptable, so they, in any event, may decline to make any amendment to their proposal, so it will simply come back to the committee in the same form it is now. Chairman, and no other proposal has been put forward tonight on the basis of other issues to refuse the proposals. And if it is unchanged in relation to those other issues, I would suggest, Chairman, it would not then be reasonable for the authority to subsequently refuse it on the basis of other issues that we've considered tonight and so far have not felt our basis for refusal.
Thank you, Chairman. 2 points. Firstly, there was probably a very important and critical omission from the group I was suggesting, and that was actually the developer, because what I'm suggesting, because although, as Kevin says, that highways have found that the current solution, or the proposed solution, is acceptable, it may be acceptable in terms of, if you like, high traffic management, but it's clearly not acceptable to local residents. And what I hope is that by getting that group together, including the developer, that between them they can come up with a solution which is not only acceptable in terms of traffic management, but also does not impose unacceptable imposition, or unacceptable imposition on local residents, and doesn't affect their amenity and quality of life. Thank you.
I think one of the things which was said which is significant, which is there have to be special circumstances for a different roundabout other than the one proposed by County Council. And if we had no special circumstances, I would suggest, as Kevin has said, that it may go back, and that it would possibly come back to us in the same form because of those. There isn't the reason of special circumstances. That's the problem.
What I believe is, my personal view is that an additional roundabout on the A120 is an unlikely solution. What I would hope is that, the officer suggested that some solution might exist to that the Tesco roundabout, as everybody knows it, could actually be reconfigured to provide the additional access, but without the problems that have been expressed here. So that will be my hope. That there seems to be the germ of a completely acceptable solution there.
So just to clarify, you're not saying now that we should have another roundabout, you're saying we should add another arm to the existing roundabout.
I'm not trying to guess the outcome. What I'm asking is that there should be detailed consideration and investigation of all the options.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Chairman, my two thoughts really, and we're certainly in a bit of an unknown arena now, of course. The roundabout we're talking about there, the roundabout Bishop's Park Tesco roundabout, can it be reconfigured such that the fifth arm can be implemented? Technically, I suspect there is an answer that can achieve that. I'm just mindful of the likely scale of work and therefore associated costs that may seek to be required to implement that. So that's one issue. Obviously, members may say the cost is appropriate, can be borne and is appropriate. I think probably more something that will drive matters on more is that, as I say, the developers have in front of us a proposal the Highway Authority have assessed and agreed is acceptable, and regardless of work that we may invite them to partake in, may well be minded to make no changes to their scheme and just seek us to approve it or to reconsider it, to get on that basis. Which I think is quite potentially the way that this would ultimately play itself out. But I to a certain degree, I am speculating on what the outcome may be there, Chair.
Right, members. Oh, Councillor Page.
Well, Chairman, I feel that this meeting has suddenly become honest because we are now talking about cost. I'm concerned about my residents in Bishop Stortford, and the cost has to be factored in, but not neglected, because it is worth it for my people in Bishop Stortford not to have this road coming out on the Haddon Road. It is worth it for their amenity, as has been mentioned, their standard of life. It's worth it for the road to come out onto that Tesco's roundabout. And I understand we're now talking about cost. I think we should be talking about principle and doing the best for our residents.
Have you got a quick one?
Thank you. I hesitate whether I should be suggesting this, I don't know. I'm just wondering whether there might be a third way here. I'd be grateful for any advice. It seems to me that the mood is general acceptance of the application other than the transport issue, particularly this western end access. Could it be proposed that we can approve the application other than the access arrangements? Could they be deferred?
Simon.
I think the issue is, Chairman, that the application is an outline application that has reserved many matters. One of the things it hasn't reserved is that roundabout, and therefore that is part of the application you're being asked to consider. They can't just delete that.
Members, we're going to take a vote now. The proposal is... Oh yes, sorry. Highways, would you like to comment?
I just want to make a point, Chairman. The reconfiguration of the Tesco access, we don't know the land ownerships. Once you start redesigning the roundabout, there will be third-party land involvement, and it could be end up the whole development in a ransom situation. And furthermore, even if we reconfigure the Tesco roundabout, every traffic have to circulate the Tesco roundabout. Most of the traffic goes towards Bishop Stortford Town Centre, putting additional pressure on the Tesco roundabout. They have to circulate the whole Tesco roundabout back along Haddon Road on the Bishop Stortford. It's not going to provide any significant benefit.
Thank you. Right, members, we need Councillor Andrew, quick one.
Yes, it will be. I fully understand the position that the highways engineers are in, but I still come back to the point where they have been reacting to an application that has been put before them. What I hope we might be able to do with this, and I salute Councillor Newman for proposing it, is free up the situation a little bit. I think there's goodwill on the part of the developers. They want this to succeed. They've got to work and work with the people at Bishop's Stortford for at least the next 8 or 10 years. I can't see that there isn't a little bit of room to sit down and have the parties around the table and see if there aren't other options. If there are no other options, then we may have to live with that if we don't want to live with it. But in the meantime, I think these professionals need the room to practice their expertise, which they haven't necessarily had thus far.
Thank you. We are now going to take a vote, members. This is a proposal by Councillor Newman, seconded by Councillor Alexander, to defer this proposal for the reasons that have been already stated. Are members in favour of this proposal? Those in favour, please show. And those against? That is carried. That is deferred. The public consultation. Right, members. Because of that, members, we do not need to deal with the other recommendations. Agenda item 6, items for reporting and noting, appeals and appeals lodged. Thank you. Agenda item 7, there is no urgent business, so I close the meeting. Thank you, members, very much. Thank you, members, for the public.